Hello everyone, I'm bringing a video today looking at something which arrived a little while ago, did feature an unboxing video when it arrived, but I now want to make a video looking at it in a bit more detail, and that's a Trimble Trimpack GPS receiver. Now this is, my interest in this is its military use, and these were used during the Gulf War by US forces, British forces, and I believe other coalition forces as well. Of course, GPS had been developed in the 1980s. Originally sets had to be man-packed. Basically, they were quite large, but by 1990 there were reliable handheld receivers which could be used for satellite navigation. So a very useful bit of kit, of course, particularly in the desert for desert navigation, and this is one of the first times they've been used on a large scale in war, and it's quite interesting from that point of view. I think probably the first time they were used on a large scale for navigation in a war zone. So we're going to have a look at this receiver. It's one example which was in use at the time. There were others as well. I'm interested in picking up examples of the other types which are in use as well for future displays and so forth, Gulf War kit. Won't be looking at this in operation in this video. That may well feature in a part 2 going forward. I'm not particularly interested in obviously broadcasting the GPS coordinates of my house on the internet, but potentially if I have this at an event in future and have it powered up, we'll maybe have a look at that with it actually powered up and get a fix and so forth and have a look at that. But in this video, we'll just be having a look at it, having a look at the overall design and some details from the manual and the case that comes with this as well. And that's what we're going to have a look at now. So here we have the Trimble Trimpack in its case. This is just a simple nylon bag. Let's say simple, there are various external compartments and so forth. You have the zip compartment over the front here, obviously the Trimble name and logo on the front there. The main flap closes with Velcro or touch and close, and you have various compartments here for instructions, various other bits and pieces be carried if required. And then we have a zip for the main compartment, which is open here. We'll get out the Trimble GPS receiver strap with a rubber section to go over the shoulder there and buckles to adjust in. So the case is really superfluous in this instance. Tend to see them in the desert just being carried as a unit or obviously used in vehicles and so forth. Looking at the unit here, as you can see, this is very much a handheld unit compared to the earlier man-pack examples of GPS. It's somewhat advanced by this point, and certainly for use in the Gulf War, these are not beyond the size limits in terms of adding to a soldier's individual kit, or indeed just being placed on the dashboard of a vehicle, for example. And obviously these were intended for use in vehicles, in maritime applications, and we'll see a little bit of that as we look at the instructions. But overall, the controls and everything are very, very simple. They're slightly more complex to use, obviously, than modern GPS devices intended for the civilian market, but robust and simple. So we have various different controls here, which are adjusted by this knob. So you have fix, position there, you have their range and azimuth, I believe, navigate, waypoint. The bottom there we have OPS and STS, and they are specific settings for setting up the Trimble, but the Trimpack. And then you have 2 toggle switches here. One toggles left and right like that, so left and right marked there. And they're spring and centered toggle switches, so they return to center once you've pressed them. And then we have ink and deck, increase and decrease, and that toggles up and down like that. So that's the basic controls at the front. We'll talk about those a little bit more in relation to the instructions. We're not going to look through the entire instruction book, but I have a laminated quick start guide which we'll have a look at, and obviously we'll go over this in more detail in a future video, all being well, where I'll use this and show you how it works. That's my intention. Looking away from the main screen here, we have obviously the hard plastic case. You can see sort of divided in 2 there for manufacturing. You can see obviously fixed these little screws fixing this in position, little Allen head screws. You have here markings on the top. Obviously you have an antenna marking here where you can add an antenna onto the side here, and obviously you have the Trimble navigation mark on the top here as well. Made of a textured plastic, so it's a nice easy grip on this when you want to look at it and hold it. Round at the back we have the battery compartment here in green, a yellow latch at the side here, yellow plastic and a metal latch that latches this in place. These could be used with nickel cadmium batteries for longer lasting use, but this has had an adapter fitted into it which allows the use of AA batteries. Now I understand they don't last very long using AA's, so we'll see how we get on with this when I have a go with it. And you can see at the back here the battery compartment, the contacts there, and obviously the Trimble navigation maker's plate there, as you can see, made in USA, of course. So this is and this has a sort of waterproof gasket around it there, as you can see, a rubber gasket around there to seal the battery compartment once this is latched into position. So quite useful in that it has the adapter there for use with AA batteries. Means it's easy enough for me to use. There's no worry about charging up an old NiCad battery or trying to find a replacement or anything. But I understand these do eat sort of alkaline AA batteries, so we'll have to see how we get on with that. I have here, and hopefully the glare won't be too bad. That doesn't look too bad at the moment, provided I keep this angled correctly. We have here a quick reference guide. So setting up for a mission, and you have use the STS position to choose datum, choose coordinate system, the system you're going to use for navigation, and then you have set operating parameters, obviously time, the units you're going to use, and you can see here nautical feet, nautical miles and knots for the different obviously units there, angular units depending on what you're going to be using for navigation, degrees, mils or radians, and then azimuth, true or magnetic north reference. So it gives you the settings that need to be set up when you're first setting this up to use it to navigate during a mission. And then during the mission, display your coordinates, use fix or pause, switch position, determine the range and azimuth, and RNA switch position. So that's all the markings on the front here where the knob is situated. So you can see those in there. If I bring that up the camera, actually a lot clearer there. You can see the different markings next to the knob to the left there, and the two toggle switches to the right. And obviously this also gives you an example of what you would see on the screen when it's set up in this way. And then you can see, well, carrying on with that, nav switch position is to navigate to another position, perform special functions to the OPS switch position, and show operation status STS switch status screen. So that's the status screen is STS. So obviously little abbreviations there correspond to those on the front control panel of this. And this shows you what you will see with the Trimpack setup with the ops switch, with the switch in the ops position, and then in the STS position there. And again, there are some abbreviations there, but WPT is waypoint to be copied or waypoint to be overwritten, copy trigger, waypoint range to be cleared, and so forth, cleared trigger. And this tells you that obviously the various details of how to set up the Trimpack for different missions. And then on the back here we have the coordinate system there, showing different readings depending on what you're using, and the fix and pause switch position shows you what you'll see on the screen there, and obviously how to alter that if necessary, which will obviously give you your altitude and so forth, as well as you can see there, and your square coordinates and so forth. So you can use this to get a lot of data, whereas a lot of modern GPS users are probably familiar with literally a straight line. It will take you somewhere. GPS navigation, obviously in many situations now, you need to be able to extract data from the GPS receiver as opposed to just using it to navigate somewhere. You can extract coordinates as to where you are and actually plot your position on a chart or a map, depending on what situation you're navigating in, of course. And then we have similar here for the nav switch position, and for the WPT, the waypoint switch position there. And again, if you want to look at these in more detail, obviously you can pause and have a look. I think we're doing okay with the glare in terms of looking at this. And with regards to the little handbook I have, the handbook dealing with this, we may well have a look at that in more detail in part 2. But for the minute in this video, I'll just show you the Trimpack quick reference guide, which came with this, which is quite useful. And as I say, obviously I'll be using this when we, well, hopefully in the future, when we have a look at this in operation. So that's a quick look at the Trimble Trimpack. As I say, an iconic bit of Gulf War kit. Obviously satellite navigation was a key part of desert navigation during the course of the war, and was somewhat revolutionary in that regard. It's certainly, I believe, the first time it was used on a large scale in war. And obviously British, US, and I believe other coalition forces made use of this and other types of GPS receiver as well. So there it is. That's the Trimble Trimpack, certainly one of the examples of GPS receivers used during the course of the Gulf War. So I hope you found it interesting looking at this. As I say, hopefully there will be a part 2 at some point in the future showing this in use, showing it in operation, obviously taking a fix and so forth. That's my intention. This was sold as a working example. I haven't had a chance to test it yet myself, but I will be doing, and as I say, hopefully in the future there'll be a video covering that. If you found this interesting and you'd like to see more of this sort of thing, please do consider subscribing to the channel if you haven't already. And whether you're newly subscribing or you've previously subscribed, please do make sure you hit the little bell, the notification button down below. That will of course alert you when I upload future videos. If you really like my uploads and you would like to support the channel, you can. Both Patreon and PayPal are linked down below. And as I always say, a massive thank you to everybody who supports the channel using those two methods. It really is greatly appreciated. As I always say, thank you all very much indeed. If you'd like to follow the channel on social media, you can. Facebook, Instagram and Twitter are all linked down below. And if you'd like to get in touch but you don't really use social media, there is of course an email address down there as well. That's everything for this video. So until next time, bye for now.